Now we're going to learn how to use an image to create a pattern in Photoshop. So the first thing you're going to do is open the image that you want to create your pattern. So I'm going to go to Browsing Bridge, and we're going to use the Veggies PSD file. So double click on that to select that. And the first thing you'll notice is that over here to the right, we've got what's called a layer mask for our image. And essentially what that means is I have already removed the parts of this image that I don't want to include in my pattern. And I'll demonstrate why I did that in a moment. So if I turn off my background layer, then we will see the parts that I wanted to keep out of the image on the layer above it. So turn that off and we'll see that I have this beautiful, colorful pot of vegetables. So turn that back on and you can see the pieces or part of the image that I painted out using a layer mask. And we'll cover layer masks in a future video. Now to select just the parts within the layer mask, you hold down your Command or Control key and click in the layer mask. And you'll see that my marching ants appear around my pot here that was masked out. Command D to deselect, or Control D if you're on a Windows machine. And look what happens if I hit Command or Control and click on my regular thumbnail. It selects everything within that thumbnail image. So once again, to select just the parts in the layer mask, I'm going to hit Command or Control D to deselect. I will hit Command on a Mac, Control on a Windows operating system, and click in the layer mask, and you can select just the parts that were masked out. We do not need to do so for this project, so Command D to undo. I am going to select the eye beside the background layer to turn that off so that we're only left with this masked part of our layer above. Make sure that layer is actually selected, and then I'm going to go to Edit and Define Pattern. And then I'm going to name what I want this pattern to be called. And you can see in this pattern thumbnail, I have none of the cutting board or marble or anything showing. It's just the masked out part. I'm going to name my pattern Pot o' Veggies. Once again, what you'll need to do is you'll need to go to Edit, Define Pattern, and then name your pattern, Pot o' Veggies. Select OK. And now that pattern has been created. Now, how would we use the pattern? Next, we're going to create a document on which to use our pattern. So we're going to do File, New. We're going to name this 3E in your last name and Veggies. And we're going to change our units to inches. And we're going to create our document as an 8" by 8" at 72 resolution. So 8 inches for width, 8 inches for height, 72 for resolution, and select OK. Doesn't look like a whole lot just yet. Now let's apply that pattern we just created. First thing you need to do is add a new layer. So Command Shift N. Let's name this Veggie Space Pattern. We're not going to adjust anything else. Click OK. We'll see we have a blank layer over here to the right named Veggie Pattern. So we are going to go to Edit, Fill, select your custom pattern. Out of the custom pattern drop-down menu, it should be the last one. You're going to select Random Fill from the drop-down menu And make sure that the script checkbox is selected first. If it's not checked, you won't be able to select random fills. So select script, and then you can go in and select random fill. Leave your blending modes to normal, opacity at 100%, and then select OK. Now we're going to go in and we are going to make some adjustments to all of these different sliders. So play with them a little bit so you can see exactly what happens. Density is how many of that pattern are going to be applied. Minimum scale factor, how small is the smallest one going to be. Maximum scale factor, how large is the largest one going to be. So density, we're going to set to 1. Minimum scale factor, we'll set to 0.2. Maximum scale factor, 0.5. We're going to check rotate pattern. That gives us a little more randomness. Turn color randomness all the way down to the left at 0. Brightness randomness all the way down to 0 as well. And then click OK. And you'll see maybe just a couple of them pop up on your document. That's fine. Maybe you want more than that. So all you have to do to apply more of the same pattern is go back up, edit, fill, leave everything as we had checked previously, select OK. Maybe you want to make things a little smaller, a little more dense. So on the second time around, select density at 1.6. Put your minimum scale factor down to 0.18. Your maximum scale factor at 0.38. Leave rotate pattern selected. Leave color randomness and brightness randomness set at 0. Select OK. And you'll see a couple more appear. Do this as many times as it takes to have several of the pattern appear on the document. So I'm going to select it again. There we go. I'm going to up my density a little bit and select OK. There we go. And I'm pretty happy with that, so I am going to leave it at that. Now it's time for me to save my document. Again, however many times you need to do the fill pattern process to get several of the pot of veggies on your document is what you need to do. When you're satisfied with the results, grab the text tool and a font of your choice. I am going to select Calibri, bold. I'm going to just click somewhere and then type yummy. Resize that to size 60 point. And I am going to center that in the middle. Remember, once again, to center, all I have to do is select my move tool, grab a hold of my word, and then start moving it around. And when I see that magenta line appear, I know I'm centered vertically. And now I'm going to move it to the right because I want to be centered horizontally and vertically. So here we go. There we go. Now I want to change the color of my text to red to match these pretty red peppers. So I'm going to highlight my text and then change the color to red. So click in the color box at the top, or you can choose a foreground color and then select a nice red color. Again, the eyedropper will appear when I come off the color panel, and I can just select the color out of the image to match exactly. When I've selected a red that I like, I click OK. I can select my move tool, and now I have created the document for this assignment. So 8 by 8 inch document set to 72 resolution, named 3E Jean Veggies for me because Jean is my last name, but whatever your last name is, substitute for Jean. Apply the pattern multiple times until you have several. Type the word yummy in a font of your choice. Set to the size 60. Change the font color to red to match the red of the peppers in the pots. And then now we're going to go to File, Save As, and it will automatically populate the Save As with the name we created the document under. So if you did not create that name when you created the document, you can do so now. Save it in the Chapter 3 folder, select Save, and that concludes how to create a pattern using your image. Now, I had told you earlier that the reason why we masked out the image earlier would be explained, so let me turn the background layer back on, and with that I'm going to select that background layer, then I'm going to go to Edit, Define Pattern. This will be Full Veggies. And notice that the pattern now includes the cutting board and the marble in the background. So that's the reason for masking that out. I'm going to cancel out of that. Make sure you've saved your file that you created as 3E, your last name, then veggies.psd. Again, you always want to turn in a PSD file. Make sure it's saved to your Chapter 3 folder. And that concludes this video on how to create patterns using an image in Photoshop.